There's something many people quietly believe when they're going through a difficult season in life. They believe life should pause until they feel better, until they feel stronger again, until they feel more confident, until the confusion settles, until the pain fades, until they finally feel like themselves again. So they wait. They wait to start new things. They wait to trust again. They wait to dream again. They wait to allow themselves to move forward. Because somewhere inside them is this quiet belief that healing has to finish first. That once they are fully healed, then life can begin again. Then they will be ready. Then they will finally feel stable enough to take the next step. But life rarely works that way. And healing almost never follows that kind of clean, predictable timeline. Most people are healing while life is still happening around them. They are healing while still waking up early every morning to go to work. Healing while managing responsibilities that cannot be postponed. Healing while caring for children, supporting family members, and showing up for people who depend on them. They are learning how to function again while parts of their hearts are still trying to understand what they went through. They are learning how to smile again while certain memories still feel heavy. They are learning how to trust themselves again after experiences that made them question their judgment. And some days that can feel incredibly exhausting. Because healing is not something you do in isolation from the rest of your life. It often happens right in the middle of it. In fact, there are people listening to this right now who didn't get the luxury of stopping their lives while they healed. Maybe you had to go back to work the next morning even though your heart was still heavy. Maybe people around you expected you to be strong, while inside you were still trying to make sense of everything you were feeling. Maybe you were answering emails, attending meetings, cooking dinner, taking care of children, while quietly trying to rebuild yourself. And the strange thing about that kind of healing is that from the outside, no one can really see it. To everyone else, it may just look like you're continuing with your life, but internally, something much deeper is happening. You're slowly rebuilding yourself, piece by piece, understanding what happened, letting go of certain expectations, relearning what safety feels like, rebuilding trust in yourself. And that kind of work takes time. One of the biggest misunderstandings about healing is the idea that it's something you complete. As if one day you wake up and suddenly everything inside you feels resolved. No more questions, no more difficult memories, no more moments where you feel uncertain about yourself or your future. But healing rarely looks like that. It's not a finish line you cross before life begins again. It's not a door you close and never look back. Healing is much more gradual. Sometimes you feel like you've made real progress. You feel lighter, more stable, more hopeful, and then something small reminds you of the past. A conversation, a place, a familiar feeling. And suddenly, you realize there are still parts of your experience you are processing. That doesn't mean you're failing at healing. It simply means healing is not a straight line. It moves in layers. You understand something new. You release something slowly. You gain perspective over time. Often you only notice how much you've grown when you look back months later. And because healing feels complicated, many people fall into a very quiet trap. They start waiting until they feel completely ready before they allow themselves to move forward. They tell themselves things like, once I feel confident again, I'll start. Once I stop thinking about what happened, I'll try again. Once everything inside me feels settled, then I'll move forward. And sometimes that waiting can last much longer than people expect. Months pass, sometimes even years. Because the strange thing about healing is that the feeling of ready doesn't always come first. Sometimes the feeling of readiness comes after you start living again, after you try something new, after you take one small step forward, after you allow life to move again. Sometimes when people hear that idea, it sounds difficult to believe. But if you look closely at certain stories, both real life and stories we see in film, you start to notice the same pattern. There's a well-known film called The Pursuit of Happyness that tells the story of a man named Chris Gardner. During one of the hardest seasons of his life, everything around him was falling apart. His business failed, his relationship broke down, and at one point he and his young son were left without a home. There's a moment in the story where he is sitting in a public restroom with his son asleep on his lap, holding the door closed while trying to hide the fact that they have nowhere else to go. In that moment, his life is far from stable. He isn't healed. He isn't confident. He doesn't have clarity about how everything will work out. But he keeps moving. He still goes to his internship every day. He still studies late into the night. He still shows up for opportunities that might change his future, not because everything is fixed, but because he refuses to let a painful season become the end of his story. And what makes that story powerful is this: his life didn't change because he waited until everything felt perfect. It changed because he kept taking steps forward, even while things were still incredibly difficult. And sometimes our lives unfold in a similar way, not all at once. Not after everything feels resolved, but gradually through small decisions to keep going. And here's something many people don't hear often enough. You don't have to become a perfectly healed version of yourself before you allow your life to continue. You are allowed to grow while you're still healing. You are allowed to take opportunities while parts of your past are still making sense to you. You are allowed to laugh again, even if certain memories still carry sadness. You are allowed to build new experiences while parts of your story are still tender. Growth and healing are not separate chapters. Most of the time, they happen at the same time, side by side. You rebuild confidence while trying again. You rediscover parts of yourself while living your life. Movement itself becomes part of the healing. Sometimes we delay our lives because we are afraid of moving forward while still feeling fragile. We think fragility means we are not ready. But fragility is not the same thing as weakness. In fact, some of the strongest people you will ever meet are people who are still healing. People who wake up each day carrying memories that change them, but still choose to keep going. There's a kind of courage that doesn't get celebrated enough. It's the courage of someone who wakes up in the morning and simply decides to keep showing up, not because everything feels easy, not because they have all the answers, but because they believe their life is still worth living, even while they are healing. That kind of strength is quiet, but it's powerful. If you are in a season where you are still healing, but still trying to move forward, you are not doing it wrong. You are not falling behind. You are not weak for needing time. You are simply living through a very human experience. Healing is not about becoming a completely different person. It's about learning how to carry your experiences without letting them stop your life. It's about understanding that your past may shape you, but it does not have to define the limits of your future. And that understanding grows slowly, day by day, step by step. So if part of you still feels uncertain, if part of you is still figuring things out, if some days feel strong and other days feel heavy, that's okay. You don't need to have every answer before you take your next step. Life is not asking you to be perfectly healed. It's simply inviting you to keep living, to keep growing, to keep discovering who you are becoming. And sometimes, the most meaningful progress happens when you gently move forward, even while parts of your heart are still learning how to heal. If this message met you where you are today, like the video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more conversations like this. I'll see you in the next video.